I made a handmade quilt for my mother-in-law's 70th birthday. She looked me in the eye, smiled, then gave it to her housekeeper in front of everyone. My husband just said, "She's from a different generation." So I sent her something she'd never forget. I want to start by saying I'm not the kind of person who holds grudges. I try to let things go. I really do. But what my mother-in-law did, this one stayed with me. And not just because it was cruel, but because of what it said about how she sees me. And how my husband reacted told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in this family. Gloria, my husband's mother, turned 70 last fall. She lives in Cherry Hills Village, one of the wealthier areas outside Denver. Big house, high fences, everything white and polished and quiet. She's the kind of woman who has people for everything: cleaners, landscapers, dog walkers. Always wearing silk blouses and just enough perfume to make you feel like you smell cheap. From day one, she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her son. I come from Pueblo, working-class family. I got my nursing degree the hard way, community college, night shift, student loans. My husband, Mark, comes from a long line of lawyers and old money. I met him in college and, stupidly, thought that love would be enough to smooth out the wrinkles between me and his family. But Gloria never let me forget that I wasn't one of them. Still, I tried. For years, I tried. Every Christmas, I brought thoughtful gifts. Every birthday, I called. Every family dinner, I smiled through her passive-aggressive comments. I cooked her favorite meals. I sent her photos of our daughter. I never talked back. When her 70th was coming up, I wanted to give her something special. I don't have much money, but I have my hands. So I started sewing a quilt. I spent 6 months on it. Every evening after putting my daughter to bed, I worked on it. Cut the fabric, stitched each square, lined it perfectly. I even got it embroidered in the corner. For Gloria, 70 years of grace and strength. I picked fabrics with meaning. I used a strip from my wedding dress, a corner of the blanket my daughter came home from the hospital in, pieces of shirts my husband wore when we first dated. It was supposed to be a way of saying, "You're part of this family. You matter to me." The party was big, formal, about 70 people. Gloria booked a private room at the country club. She had a string quartet playing in the background. Everyone there was someone. I felt out of place the moment I walked in. I was the only one not wearing a designer label. But I kept telling myself, it's about the gift. She'll see the love in it. When it was time for gifts, I handed mine to her. It was in a large white box, wrapped in ribbon. She opened it slowly, lifted the quilt out, and held it up. "People owed." She smiled. For a moment I thought, maybe she's touched. Maybe this is the start of something better between us. Then she turned, held the quilt out to her housekeeper, Maria, a woman who's worked for her for over a decade, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Maria, dear, I think this will be more your style. You can keep it." Just like that. I didn't know what to do. I felt my chest tighten. My mouth went dry. Everyone laughed politely. Maria looked confused, even a little embarrassed, but took it and smiled the way you do when you're trying to stay polite in front of rich people. I looked at Mark. He leaned in and whispered, "She's from a different generation. Don't take it personally." I felt like I'd been slapped. Later that night, I asked him why he didn't say anything, why he let her humiliate me like that. He just shrugged. "It's not worth starting a fight over a blanket," he said. I slept on the couch that night. And the next day, I started thinking, Gloria thinks she can treat me like help, like nothing I do has value. And my husband? He's never going to stand up to her. Not for me. Not ever. So I decided to take care of it myself. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw a fit. But I was going to make damn sure Gloria never forgot what she did. And I was going to do it in a way that fit her world. Quiet, polite, and sharp enough to draw blood without leaving a mark. It started with a phone call to someone who knew exactly how Gloria really ran her perfect household. The person I called was Elena. She used to clean Gloria's house before Maria. She worked there for years, quiet, loyal, invisible, the way Gloria likes her women. Then one day, Gloria let her go. No warning, no severance. Just told her she wasn't keeping up. Elena didn't speak much English back then, but I always made an effort to talk to her during family visits. She had a daughter around my daughter's age. I remembered her face when she left Gloria's house for the last time. Like, she wasn't surprised, just tired. I found a number in my old phone logs and reached out. It took a few tries, but when she finally picked up, I told her who I was and what I wanted. She was quiet at first. I think she thought I was calling to accuse her of something. But once I explained what Gloria had done to me and how I wanted to level the field, she opened up. Elena had stories. Lots of them. Unpaid overtime. Under-the-table cash that stopped when Gloria didn't feel like paying. Times Gloria berated her for touching the silver with bare hands. She'd even had her drive guests home without a license, just so she wouldn't have to call a car service. And that wasn't all. Gloria had been writing her off as a live-in domestic on her taxes for years, even though Elena had never stayed a night in that house. I still have some of the pay stubs, Elena told me, and texts. I asked her if she'd be willing to share copies. I told her I wanted to make a formal complaint, not just for revenge, but to stop this kind of thing. She hesitated. She had every reason to be scared. But then she said something that stuck with me. She made me feel like I was dirt. If you're really serious, I'll help. We made a plan. First, I gathered everything. Photos of the quilt before I gave it away, text messages between Gloria and Elena, screenshots of shady Venmo payments labeled gift instead of wages, and a copy of the social media post Gloria made bragging about Maria's loyal service, as if she were a pet. Then I contacted an attorney I knew from the hospital, someone who specialized in labor law. I asked about filing a report with the Department of Labor. He told me what to include, how to do it quietly, and what kind of violations they'd actually go after. At the same time, I started documenting every nasty little thing Gloria had done to me over the years. Not because it was illegal, but because I knew her image was everything. Her social circle was full of image-obsessed women who played nice to each other's faces while tearing each other down behind closed doors. And I knew exactly how to weaponize that. But things got harder at home. Mark noticed I was colder, more distant. He started asking questions. I told him I was still hurt about the quilt. He said I was being sensitive, that I should focus on the positive. I felt myself drifting from him. I started to see him for what he was. Not abusive, not cruel, but weak. Spineless. Always folding to the people with the most money in the room. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One morning, about a month after the party, I got a call from Maria, the housekeeper. She was crying. Gloria had fired her. She found out Maria had talked to Elena on Facebook, and she accused her of stirring trouble. No proof, just paranoia. She cut Maria loose without notice. That's when I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. Gloria didn't just step on me. She stepped on every woman she thought she could get away with treating like trash. So I called Elena back. I said we're not stopping. We're going to burn the whole thing down. Quietly. Legally. And in full view of every fake friend Gloria ever tried to impress. The report to the Department of Labor went through. Elena filed it under her name, and I helped her get a legal aid advocate who spoke Spanish. We attached everything, texts, payment screenshots, and Gloria's own words from years of emails. She'd even sent Elena a message once saying, "You should be grateful for the extra cash. Most people like you don't get this opportunity." That went straight in the file. But I wasn't done. I had something else. Something Gloria didn't know I had. 2 years ago, Gloria had asked me to help her update her estate plan. She said she wanted to simplify things for Mark and his sister in case of emergencies. I'd sat at her kitchen table one weekend, helping her draft letters and scan documents. She handed me a file folder with copies of her living trust, insurance policies, and a handwritten list of valuables she wanted distributed quietly after her death. I'd made a copy. Back then, I didn't think much of it. But now I looked at it with fresh eyes. Half the assets weren't listed in her official trust. jewelry, antiques, undeclared cash, gifts she planned to hand out in secret to avoid taxes. It was clear she'd been hiding things, probably from the IRS, maybe even from her kids. I sent an anonymous tip to the IRS, using the document. I knew they wouldn't act fast, it's the government, but they would flag it. And once flagged, it would sit in her file, waiting for an audit. The kind of thing that keeps rich people up at night. The final twist came from inside her social circle. Mark's sister, Vanessa, who'd always seemed distant but polite to me, called out of the blue one afternoon. She asked if I'd heard that Gloria had been shaken up recently, saying people at the country club were whispering about mistreatment of staff and legal trouble. I played dumb. Then she said something that made me sit down. Mom thinks someone's trying to destroy her reputation. She thinks it's one of the maids, but I don't buy it. I think she finally crossed the wrong person. I asked her what she meant.
Vanessa sighed.
You're not like the rest of us. That quilt you made, I saw her throw it away. Didn't even let Maria take it. I don't blame you for being angry. I just hope you're careful. I didn't confirm anything. I just thanked her for calling. But now I knew two things. Gloria was panicking. Someone inside her own family was starting to see the cracks. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about showing everyone who she really was behind the pearls and polite smiles. And I was just getting started. The fallout started slow, then picked up speed. 2 weeks after Elena's complaint was filed, Gloria's house got a surprise visit. Department of Labor agents in plain clothes showed up mid-morning on a Wednesday. Maria had already been fired, but her replacement, a younger woman named Iris, called Elena in a panic afterward. Said they were asking about employment records, wage logs, and tax documents. Gloria must have been livid. But she played her part, gracious hostess, offering coffee, pretending she had no idea how things were done wrong. What she didn't realize was that they already had enough to open a case. And they weren't just asking about Elena. They were asking about every domestic worker she'd hired over the past decade. Then came the first public hit. One of Gloria's so-called friends from the country club, somebody I'd seen taking pictures at her birthday party, posted on Facebook. It wasn't direct, but it hit the mark. Sad to hear about certain members of the Cherry Hills community treating household staff like disposable help. If you can't treat the people who serve you with respect, no amount of pearls will hide the rot. It didn't name her, but people knew. Gloria panicked. She started reaching out to friends, trying to smooth things over, inviting people to tea, sending little apology cards for past misunderstandings. But the damage was done. Once whispers start in a place like that, they spread faster than fire. At home, things were getting colder. Mark started asking me if I was happy. Said I'd changed. That I didn't laugh like I used to. I wanted to scream at him. Of course I changed. Your mother humiliated me in front of everyone you know, and you acted like it was nothing. Instead, I said, do you ever wonder who she really is? Who she hurts when no one's watching? He looked confused. He didn't understand. Maybe he never would. Then came the letter. Not to me, to Gloria. From the IRS. Mark brought it up one evening after dinner. Said his mom was nervous about some paperwork and had asked for his help getting her financials in order. I kept my face still and said nothing. Just nodded. That must be stressful. She had no idea I was behind it. But the moment that really told me she was cracking, she showed up at her house, unannounced. I was home alone. Mark was at work, our daughter at school. I opened the door and saw her standing there, holding a Tupperware of lemon bars like we were on some kind of friendly neighbor visit. She smiled. Too wide. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. She didn't sit. Just stood there in my living room, looking around like she was inspecting a rental. I know you're upset, she began. I may have mishandled things at my birthday. I didn't say a word. She continued, but we're family, and I'd hate to see that threatened over a misunderstanding. I always assumed you were stronger than this. Stronger. Like the problem was my weakness, not her cruelty. I looked her in the eye and said, you know what I regret, Gloria? That I ever thought I needed your approval. Her smile faltered. She left the lemon bars on the counter and walked out without saying another word. She knows. She doesn't have proof yet, but she knows. And the thing about women like Gloria? Once they lose control, they unravel fast. All I had to do was keep pulling the thread. 2 weeks after Gloria showed up at my house, the Department of Labor officially launched their investigation. She received a formal notice, registered mail. I know because she called Mark that night, screaming. Said she was being targeted by liars and that someone had turned the help against her. Mark came to me, pale, holding his phone like it was toxic. Did you have anything to do with this? I looked him in the eye and said, if I did, would you finally stand up for me? Or just say it's not worth a scene again? He didn't answer. And that was my answer. Within a month, things started unraveling for Gloria fast. The department found multiple violations, wage theft, tax misclassification, and documentation issues. She had to hire a lawyer, pay back wages to Elena and 2 other women, and was fined. The country club found out. Someone forwarded the official labor violation notice to the board. Suddenly, her brunch invitations dried up. She was quietly asked not to renew her membership the next season. She acted like it was her decision. Everyone knew it wasn't. But the real revenge, the one that hit deepest, came from within her own family. Vanessa, Mark's sister, got involved. She called me one night and asked me to meet for coffee. I was cautious, but I went. She came alone. No small talk. Just sat down and said, I'm updating my own estate plan. I'm not letting Mom manipulate me anymore. I saw what you did, and I think she deserved it. She told me about the time Gloria humiliated her in front of a boyfriend, how she threatened to cut her off when she wouldn't attend a fundraiser, how she used money to control everyone. Vanessa was done. She was moving her investments out of the family trust and making sure her future didn't depend on Gloria's approval. That alone would have been enough. But then came the cherry on top. I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, from Maria. She said thank you. She'd found another job with a family who treated her like a person. Elena had helped her find it, and both of them were being paid fairly now. She said my quiet fight had helped them find their voice, that they never thought someone like me, someone on the inside, would stand up for them. I sat at the kitchen table, holding that letter, and for the first time since the birthday party, I felt peace. Gloria lost more than money. She lost her power, her image, her reputation. And the one thing that mattered most to her, control. At Thanksgiving, she sat across from me in silence.
No smile. No fake words.
Just a quiet, tense politeness. Mark noticed it. So did Vanessa. Nobody said a word. After dinner, I handed out leftovers. Gloria reached for a container. I looked at her, then turned and handed it to Maria's replacement, the new housekeeper I'd personally helped vet, now working under a fair contract with benefits. Gloria's hand froze midair. I didn't flinch. That quilt? It was just the beginning. She tossed it like it was nothing. But I made damn sure she'd never forget the woman who made it.